angels, and the afterlife. And very few people realize that these three things are connected. And it's really, really an important topic. How many of you have had an experience or know somebody who has had an experience with either aliens, angels, or the afterlife? Can I see your hands? That's mainly the people on this side. Did I stay over here? We're good, we're good. All the hands that raised tonight, you can see that many, many people have an experience or know somebody who's had an experience with the supernatural. And that's why this topic is so important. Have any of you been seeing an increase in news reports on UFOs and aliens? It seems like it's becoming more and more a topic now in this day and age. And so, we need to begin talking about it. So tonight, I'm going to make a promise to you, and here it is. You will find life-changing answers to questions you may have asked your entire life in this weekend seminar. It may not be the answers that you thought you'd find, but you will discover things about these three topics that will make a lasting impact on your life. And perhaps the first thing that you may not know is that all three of these topics are interconnected. Aliens, angels, and the afterlife are not separate subjects, but they are all part of a single storyline that has been breaking into humanity from the time of Jesus even until our modern world, maybe even more today than ever before. Tonight, in UFOs over Idaho or America, we're going to look at some of the most convincing sightings of UFOs, UAPs, or as they were called in the 1950s, flying saucers. All words used to describe the same thing. And we're going to look not only at sightings here in Idaho, but around the world from some of the most credible witness accounts. High-ranking military personnel, presidents of the United States, who are on record stating that they saw UFOs. Common members of society and even groups of hundreds and thousands of people who have witnessed these strange UFO sightings all at once. We're going to be looking at sightings from right here in Bonners Ferry. We're going to look at the case of one woman who was abducted at the age 4, 5, 6 years old, and she was abducted repeatedly right here in Bonners Ferry, over and over and over again. This is a truly spiritual experience that thousands of people from all over this planet have encountered. And then we're going to be back again tomorrow evening for a double-backer session that will wrap up. So at 5:30, we're going to be doing Angels Among Us, and that will go for just under an hour. Then we'll have a short intermission where there will be some refreshments, and then we'll be back for our second session that evening, Secrets of Area 51. What are they hiding? And we're going to look at the dark connection between aliens and dark angels that are working through world governments in a master deception that will break on the whole world. And then, Saturday, we're going to be back for another double-backer session, 5:30 again. We're going to look at aliens and the paranormal connection. Then we'll have a short intermission. So that's at 5:30. And then we'll wrap up 7 o'clock, the afterlife mystery, where we're going to look at what really happens when you die. We're going to look at ghost encounters, angel appearances, UFO sightings, and you'll see this whole puzzle coming together as a perfect picture as we go through the series. But before we begin our topic tonight, I'd like to just pray one more time. Can we do that together? All right, let's bow our heads. Heavenly Father, I want to pray that you would please bless us as we go through tonight's topic. I know that there are dark forces in this world, unseen,
And I just want to pray that your presence would be here, that you would lead and guide our minds, and that you would bless us as we talk about the subject for tonight. I pray that you would just bless it in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, tonight's topic, UFOs over Idaho. We begin with the National UFO Reporting Center. Founded in 1974, the National UFO Reporting Center, or NUFORC, is an independent, non-governmental organization dedicated to collecting and recording and analyzing UFO sightings from all over the United States and around the world. The center operates a 24-hour telephone hotline and an online reporting system that allows witnesses, civilian and sometimes military or aviation professionals to document unexplained aerial phenomena. NUFORC compiles those reports into one of the largest public UFO databases in the world, freely available on its website. You can go there this evening. Since 1974, NUFORC has logged approximately 170,000 sightings. And they say for every sighting that is reported, there are 10 that are never officially reported. And if that's true, then you have under 2 million sightings, and some of these sightings are reported by family groups, meaning that those sightings represent millions of people all over the world who have seen these things. I mean, just look at the map of the sightings reported all over the United States. And now I'd like to zoom in. And as we zoom in, right here to North Idaho, you can see that there are a number of sightings right here, even in the Bonners Ferry area. And some of these sightings, they're fascinating. And I'll share 3 of them with you right now, but you're going to hear about and see pictures and videos of many of the most compelling sightings in tonight's presentation. So the first sighting is from Priest River, and it happened July 8, 1994. A couple who live out of town noticed some strange lights in the distance one evening, and the husband saw it first. So he ran to get his wife, who came out with binoculars to get a good look. And she said, I went to get a pair of binoculars, and my jaw truly dropped to the ground. By the way, you can go on to NUFORC, click on the Priest River sighting, and you will see this very page open up. She said, I went to get a pair of binoculars. My jaw truly dropped to the ground. I saw a what? A disc-shaped object like the lid of a saucer pan, metallic or silvery gray in color. The lights, red and bluish green, were not blinking after all, but were circling the edge of the disc. She goes on to report that her neighbor saw it too, and others must have seen it also, because within a week or two, they got flyers from MUFON, which is the Mutual UFO Network. That's the group that Joe Jordan is from, who produced this book, Red Flags of UFOlogy. They've got MUFON investigators up here in Bonners Ferry, all over North Idaho, and across the country that come to investigate any sightings that happen. They interview people, and they put together a report. So a similar reporting network to NUFORC, asking if anyone in the area had seen any strange lights in the sky. Wild. Here's another one, and this one is August 1st, 2012, up in the mountains east of Coeur d'Alene. A single man reports his encounter while enjoying the mountains, and he said, I had a sensation that something was above me. Have you ever sensed that someone is watching you from behind? Yeah. I just had that today. I was working on my computer, and I just felt something behind me. And I turned around and looked, and it was my 6-year-old staring at me. But you can feel it. So he says, I had a sensation, something was above me. I looked up and seen a huge black metallic triangle hovering. There was no sound. And this is a common theme. Most people who see UFO sightings, they hear nothing. There's no sound. It was enormous, probably a football field length for each side of the triangle. It passed by what? Silently, at about 25 miles per hour, then was out of sight within seconds. And you're going to see that seeing giant triangular aircraft in the sky is not an anomaly, but hundreds of witnesses from all over the world have seen identical UFOs. Now let's check out one more sighting from North Idaho. This one was further east of Coeur d'Alene in a town called Murray, Idaho, up over one of the mountain lakes. A hiker was hiking and stopped to rest at one of those lakes when he suddenly noticed a craft hovering above the water of the lake. And here's what he noticed. He noticed an object hovering toward the middle of the lake, about 500 to 1,000 feet above the lake. Size of compact car. No what? No sound. Looked illuminated. Watched it for about 2 to 5 minutes before getting very uncomfortable. I would too. And truly scared, packed up and left. Do you want to see the picture that he snapped before he left? He got a picture of it. Now, none of these eyewitness accounts leave their name or picture. They aren't looking for fame, and their descriptions are as strange to them as they are to us. This guy was so scared he booked it out of there, but not before snapping a photo. And here is the photo. It's kind of grainy, so let me zoom in. And that one got even more grainy. So I decided that I would take that whole photo and throw it into ChatGPT and see if AI could give me an actual image of what he saw. So I threw it into ChatGPT, and here's the picture that it spit out. Somehow, I don't believe that's quite what he saw. An AI-generated image. You know, thousands and thousands of people all over the globe are seeing things like this. More often than not, they hover and then zip away at enormous, unbelievable speeds without ever making a sound. What are they? Who are they? Is it all made up? The fictional imagination of a dehydrated hiker or someone having a high-altitude delusion? Or are these things real? And my next video will blow your mind. A UFO coming up out of the ocean. Here it is. Do you know where I got this video? Yes, it's an AI-generated video. And I show this because 95% of all UFO sightings, when investigated, actually have a rational, earth-based explanation. It was a plane, maybe an advanced plane or a weather balloon. It was a weather event or a drone, or maybe it was an AI-generated picture. And I want you to see this because if you study in the UFO literature, you're going to find that almost all of them agree that 95%, how much? 95% of all UFO sightings, when they're investigated by a MUFON investigator, turn out to be explainable by something else here on Earth. That leaves 5%. How many sightings are in that 5%? Well, if we take 5% of the 170,000 UFO sightings that were reported on Newfork, you come up with about 8,000, I believe. It's going to be on the next slide. About 8,000 sightings. These 5% of UFO sightings are witnessed by more than one person. They're confirmed by radar or external sources. They have physical evidence that's left behind, and the sources are trustworthy sources. In other words, they're individuals who have a motive not to make this stuff up. They either have their job on the line or they have some sort of motive, and this would be individuals like military pilots or commercial pilots or people who are working for government agencies. In the book, The Presidents and the UFOs, the author Larry Holcomb writes, the number of unexplained UFO sightings is generally thought to be in the area of 5% of all reported sightings, which would be high-quality sightings made by competent observers that, when studied, offer no conventional explanation. Now, 5%, that seems like an awfully small number, right? But let's take 5% of the 170,000, and that leaves you with 8,500 sightings that are high-quality sightings made by competent observers. And it suddenly doesn't look like such a small number, does it? We aren't talking about one or two UFO encounters that scientists can't figure out. We are talking about thousands of sightings that are so puzzling to the scientific community that they have to truly put it in the record as a UFO, because the witness testimony and factual evidence puts this beyond an explainable phenomena. The sheer number is so compelling that at least 6 governments have officially stated that some UFO UAP sightings correspond to real, physical, intelligently controlled phenomena that remain unexplained after investigation. Those government agencies are agencies from the United States, France, Chile, Uruguay, Brazil, and Belgium. None of the official government agencies claim that they are extraterrestrial, but none deny their existence. These incredible sightings have led former high-ranking and highly qualified officials to release reports like the Cometa report, documenting the non-disputable existence of UFOs. Now, this report, the Cometa report, was put together in France by some of the most credible individuals that could compile such a document. Individuals such as General Dennis Leddy, a retired Air Force brigadier general, and former director of the Institute of Advanced Studies for National Defense. He was the one who chaired the Cometa Committee. Then you have General Bruno Lemoyne, also a former director for the Institute of Advanced Studies for National Defense. He provided national security and air defense data to the committee. And then you have Admiral Marc Merlot, a retired French Navy admiral, Jean-Claude Ribes, an astrophysicist. You have Christian Marchal, a senior engineer at ONERA, a French aerospace lab. You have Francois Louange, who was an image analysis specialist and a consultant to the French Defense Ministry. So you have all of these individuals who highly educated, highly qualified, and they come together to put together a report. And you know who this report was for? This report took them 3 years. They studied all the UFO evidence, and their desire was not to release this report to the public, but to present this report to the President of France so that he could have the information that he needed from the most qualified people in his country who had spent a considerable amount of time, 3 years studying this. And the Cometa report was then offered to him. And what did the report conclude about UFO sightings? We're going to get to that right at the end of tonight. So don't worry. We'll get to the Cometa report's full disclosure. But before I give you the conclusion, I guess we need to see and hear what some of these sightings that they studied really were about, and look for ourselves at some of the eyewitness accounts that were dealt with by these high-ranking officials in the Cometa report. Arthur Schopenhauer, a German philosopher from the 19th century, is paraphrased in saying, all truth passes through 3 stages. First, it is ridiculed. Second, it is violently opposed. And third, it is accepted as self-evident. So let's take a look together at some of the most amazing UFO sightings. And to begin, we're going to head to Belgium, where there was a wave of UFO sightings called the Belgium Wave. These sightings began in 1989 and continued across Belgium for 2 years. Retired Major General Wilfried de Brouwer, who was put in charge of handling the response to this UFO wave by the Defense Ministry of Belgium, recalls the events over the 2-year period, saying, "Hundreds of people saw a majestic," what shape? Triangular. Guess where else we saw a triangular aircraft? Coeur d'Alene. That guy who reported from Coeur d'Alene, just east of Coeur d'Alene in Murray. So here in Belgium, they see a huge triangular aircraft spanning approximately 120 feet. That's about a football field. And powerful beaming spotlights moving very slowly without making any significant noise, but in several cases accelerating to very high speeds. On November 29, 1989, 143 sightings were reported within a 19-mile circumference in Belgium. They estimated 250 people saw this UFO craft flying over Belgium. It was 5:15 p.m. local time when a triangular craft was spotted silently hovering above a field with 3 spotlights beaming down and a red flashing light in the center. It never made a sound. 2 federal police officers witnessed this craft for over 30 minutes. Here is a drawing of this craft by 2 witnesses near Lake Gillespie. And that was their drawing. At 6:45, okay, that's the AI-generated image. At 6:45 p.m., several officers reported seeing a second craft emerge silently from behind the woods. It tilted forward in a deliberate maneuver, revealing the upper side of its fuselage, a dome-like structure with rectangular windows glowing from within. After a short time, this second object disappeared from view. And this is an AI-generated photo from the actual drawings of this craft as well. The officers said the craft had 2 red light beams with a red ball at the end of each beam, and the beams almost dropped out of the craft like a solid glowing red bar and then pulled up in the same way, but it looked like streams of light or lasers. And here's that picture. Then at 7:23 p.m., the original 2 policemen, still in radio contact with their dispatch, spotted the first craft again. From their elevated position overlooking Henry Chapelle, they could see it drifting toward the town where 2 of their colleagues, Officer Dieter Plumens and Peter Myckal, now had it in sight as well. So picture the scene. 2 officers watching from the ridge above and 2 more stationed in the village below, each seeing the same object from different vantage point and each one radioing to one another what they're seeing. The lower pair describe a triangular craft about 250 feet above the ground, roughly 300 feet away, with 3 powerful spotlights and a flashing red light at its center. And here's the drawing that they gave of that aircraft. So a drawing was made of the sighting, but this time with lights around the front of the aircraft. Suddenly, the craft emitted a distinct hissing sound, and a red sphere of light, a ball of light, dropped straight from its center, passing alarmingly close to their position before veering away, and that ball of light disappeared behind the trees. The UFO then started to move, and the policemen followed in their vehicles until they lost sight of it. In total, 13 police officers had witnessed this UFO, followed it, and made detailed drawings, and all reported it. A total of 70 reported sightings were made on November 29 and were fully investigated, and none of these sightings could be explained by conventional technology. That same triangular craft reappeared over Belgium on December 1st, and then again on the 11th, and then witnessed by 21 more people. Here is a picture drawn by a 12-year-old boy who saw it with his parents, his grandparents, and his sister. The boy's drawing shows a frontal view, a closer overhead view, and a view of the aircraft as it flew directly overhead. Then, on April 4, 1990, at 10 p.m. in the town of Petit Richain, a lady was walking her dog in her courtyard when she noticed the spotlights of a craft hovering near her home. She alerted her partner, who rushed outside with a newly bought camera. The camera was loaded with color slides, but only 2 shots remained on the film. So, leaning against the wall to avoid instability, he took 2 photographs, which became the most famous UFO photos ever taken. And here's the photo that he got of that aircraft. You will find this photo all over the internet. And it is by far the most famous UFO photograph. The photograph was examined by a number of sources, including NASA, the French National Center for Scientific Research, and the Belgium Royal Military Academy, but none could positively identify it or find obvious signs of fakery. And here's where the story gets interesting. For over 20 years, no one debunked this photo. It was considered a genuine. But in 2011, Patrick Myckal went on live television and claimed that his own photo was a fraud, and that he used styrofoam, lights, and strings to create a fake. The skeptics jumped on this and celebrated, but the case isn't closed. We still have all the witnesses to the Belgium wave, hundreds of them in Belgium. In addition to Patrick Myckal is in a patent dispute trying to get money from the photo that he took from the publishers who published it. Why would he wait 20 years to say it was a hoax? And why didn't the best scientists debunk his photo years earlier? So there's still a lot of questions of whether the admission of a hoax is perhaps a hoax in itself. We don't know. But then you have the F-16 pilots who were dispatched from the Belgium Air Force to chase this UFO. They got it 8 times on radar, but never saw it from the sky. Of approximately 2,000 reported cases registered during the Belgium wave, 650 were investigated, and more than 500 of them remain unexplained. So was there something actually seen by hundreds of people over Belgium? The mystery certainly isn't solved. Even if this one photograph is taken as truly debunked, how do you explain all the rest of the evidence that comes in? Dr. Richard Haynes, a NASA research scientist and chief of NASA's Space Human Factor branch, has compiled an impressive 3,400 first-hand UFO sightings by commercial, military, and private pilots of UFOs they have seen while flying. And I'd like to take just a moment to listen to this scientist explain why pilot sightings are so reliable, how this is a global phenomena, and share one of his stories from his collection. So we're going to listen in right now.
The pilot sightings are very valuable because of a number of factors. The pilots are highly educated and trained for the first point. And what that means is that they have a career at stake. And they're not going to come forward with a report of some strange object or light off the side of the aircraft or near the aircraft unless they've already eliminated all of the prosaic explanations. They're just risking their career to do so. We'll say in half of the cases at least, the phenomenon appears to approach the airplane, not the other way around. It's as if the aircraft is the focus of attention or curiosity, if I may use that word, of the phenomenon. That the pilot's flying along, minding his own business, and something comes up alongside one wing for 15 minutes at cruise altitude, cruise speed, and then sometimes will flip over to the other wing, or stay right at the nose of the aircraft, and then do barrel rolls along the flight axis. Some very interesting maneuvers. The kind of flight maneuvers that our aircraft are generally not capable of doing. It suggests that the phenomenon is worldwide, obviously. We take that for granted now. It's not showing up differently by culture, for instance. That the behavior of the phenomenon near an aircraft is the same for foreign aircraft as it is American aircraft. as I would expect. I had a B-52 captain tell me once that he was flying in the front left seat of a brand new B-52 from Wichita, Kansas, where it was made by the Boeing Corporation. And his job was to ferry that aircraft with a light crew, not a full crew, to an Air Force base in the southwestern part of America. Clear sunny day, beautiful bright sky, and an object, a round sphere, probably 4 or 5 feet in diameter, with no markings, no rivets, no seams, no insignias, no USAF on the side, showed up right off his left wingtip. Well, his co-pilot said, "Captain, we have an object off our right wingtip," and he described it, and it was the same shape, size, and everything, identical to this one on the left wing. So there's 2 objects now, keeping up with the aircraft at cruise altitude and cruise speed. Well, to make a long story short, he told me that an object showed up behind the aircraft, above the aircraft, below the aircraft, and off each wingtip, 5 total. And I said, "Well, what did you do?" He said, "Well, I hit the autopilot button on the control column and went into evasive maneuvers, which is kind of standard operating procedure, to try to shake these things." And he said, "I tried to, if they were balloons, they weren't going to keep up with us very long. If they were birds, why were they at that altitude and flying at 300 or 400 miles an hour, so forth and so on." Good, typical piloting behavior, checking off what they weren't, you see. Well, he said, no matter what I did with that aircraft, they stayed with the aircraft perfectly aligned. It's called station keeping. So he said, after a while of this, we're running out of fuel, and I have a job to do. He said he added power, got back up to cruise altitude, and put it back on autopilot. And he said after 15 or so minutes more, the objects departed from the aircraft in the exact opposite order they arrived. Intelligence. To me, that's not random. That's intelligence. That's deliberate.
Interesting, huh? Fascinating. So here's another story from Dr. Haynes' files. It's a Portuguese Air Force pilot, Julio Guerra, November 2nd, 1982. At 10:50 a.m. in the morning, he was flying a DHC-1 Chipmunk, and I have a picture on the screen of what this small airplane looks like. And he was flying near the Lisbon airport between 5,000 to 5,500 feet. He noticed a UFO flying below him, but then noticed it didn't have any wings or a tail, just an oval fuselage. He described it like a disc with the top reflecting the sun and the bottom a darker appearance and a bright band wrapped around the center. The object descended rapidly to 5,000 feet in less than 10 seconds, stopped right in front of him, and then moved with the pilot's airplane, and then started doing huge orbits around his plane, flying from 5,000 feet to 10,000 feet. Julio radioed the tower, and they sent up 2 other pilots to confirm, Carlos Garces and Antonio Gomez, who were both Air Force pilots. They both radioed when they met up with Julio that they could see the object circling his plane, and they estimated it was 8 to 10 feet in diameter. Julio decided to intercept the object and flew right at its trajectory path. And the object rolled right over the plane at lightning speeds and then seemingly hovered right over his plane, breaking all the rules of aerodynamics. It hovered there for several moments, just following the plane, and then bolted away and disappeared in a flash before all 3 pilots' eyes. When they landed, all 3 pilots gave their individual and corroborating reports regarding this flying object. They determined that the object had ascended at a rate of more than 300 miles per hour, which, if it is instantaneous, creates a G-force of 27 Gs. Do you know how many Gs a human can survive? 4 to 6 Gs. And they can survive that for several seconds before losing consciousness. Anything above 15 Gs for even a second creates severe internal injuries and fatality. So you can't survive it. But here are trained pilots seeing this object travel at these incredible speeds. And while the object was circling Julio in his aircraft, it would have been traveling at 1,550 miles per hour, according to these pilots' estimates, while doing these incredible aerial maneuvers, something not possible with aircraft currently operating on Earth. And to put this into perspective, the radius of the turns would have to be around a 15-mile circle, and even then the pilot would be pulling 2 Gs. If you pull that circle inward to what this object was doing, even to a mile, the G-force from this speed and tight circle again is so great, it's not survivable. And the aircraft would not be able to handle the pressure. It's beyond the structural thermal limits. So did these 3 pilots lie? Not likely. The tower received the radio signal from Julio and then sent up 2 other Air Force pilots who were laughing about the whole thing before they arrived on the scene and then saw the aerial phenomena for themselves. This is a super important point. Not only do these UFOs look like aircraft no one has ever seen before, they break the laws of physics. And do you know what we call things that break the laws of physics? Supernatural. Supernatural is above the natural world, supranatural. We classify other things as supernatural. Miracles, divine or spiritual beings, sorcery or witchcraft, paranormal phenomena are all things that we use to describe the term supernatural. And I want you to see that aliens and UFOs fall into the category of the supernatural. Aliens and UFOs are things that defy our physical world. In many instances, these UFOs don't appear as discs or triangles. Sometimes they just appear as balls of bright, shining light. As was the case in 1978 when Captain Startup and co-pilot were flying along the coast of New Zealand. This is also a really amazing capture of a UFO on video. Perhaps one of the clearest, and the UFO appears as a ball of light. So both the plane's onboard systems as well as New Zealand traffic control track the lights on radar and air traffic control. Jeffrey Causer also witnessed this whole thing being played out on the radar screen while the entire dialogue was recorded between the pilots and the air traffic control. It's a well-documented case and perhaps the most credible UFO footage ever, simply because of the number of high-quality witnesses. The video that you see here is the actual footage from the incident in 1978. The lights would suddenly disappear and then reappear in completely different locations, almost as if they had teleported instantly to another spot. Another example of something that cannot be explained by natural phenomena. And here you have the footage just being slowed way down so that you can see it. But it was quite amazing as they captured this ball of light blinking, moving back and forth all around the airplane. Then there is the incident that happened at the O'Hare Airport, November 7, 2006. For about 5 minutes, a disc-shaped object hovered quietly over the United Airlines terminal while pilots, managers, and mechanics at the airfield looked up and watched this thing just silently hover. It was 20 to 80 feet in diameter, and it was about 1,500 feet above gate C-17 of the United Terminal. The FAA has since released the tapes of the United supervisor's call to the air traffic control tower after the FAA denied repeatedly that the incident occurred. But when the audio was released, they had to retract their denial. Here's the audio now from that day, November 7, 2006. Listen in. As you could understand, air traffic control, when they're radioing back and forth, there's a lot of static. but see if you can listen. You're going to hear the manager for United Airlines talking with air traffic control. Then you're going to hear a mechanic talking about how all of the mechanics saw the same thing while they were working on their aircraft. So listen in. Here it is.
Dwight, what happened to Dave? Did he have to take a break because I called him? No. Yes. There was a disc out there flying around.
There was a what? There was a what?
A disc.
A disc? Can you hang on 1 second?
Sure, Dwight.
Okay, I'm sorry. What can I do for you now?
Sorry. I told Dave there was a disc flying outside above Charlie 17, and he thought I was pretty much high. But I'm not high, and I'm not drinking. Someone actually has a picture of it, so if you guys see it out there,
Yes, a disc. Like a frisbee?
like a UFO type thing.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, okay.
How high above Charlie 17?
Well, above our tower. So if you happen to see him,
You know what? I'll keep a peeled eye for that.
all right.
Okay.
Goodbye.
Tower Cab, this is Dave. Yeah, Roger.
I got an interesting one for you, Dave. Some of our employees, I don't know if you heard anything about this, pilots on the ground are reporting
This is a pilot now reporting to the tower.
You know what? The ramp tower called me. I want to say about 10, 15 minutes ago. We have not seen anything up there. Because she said it was right around gate G17.
Okay.
But I mean, since she called, I've been looking, but we have not seen anything.
Okay.
If we do, well, I get it.
Well, no, I was wondering, maybe we'll have to give him C7 right.
Yeah, I know. Either that or you guys unveiled a brand new aircraft that I didn't tell anybody about. No, we have not seen anything, but we will surely keep an eye out, that's for sure. No problems.
Gateway 668. Send the penalty box. Ready to go to the north port. Gateway 668. You can use Alpha to north port and use caution for the UFOs. I have for the north port. We'll take a look.
United Maintenance 44.
Okay, it's 44. Thank you. 44 is going around the north port. You got Eagle and Skywest over here coming around this way. He's turning in no factory. You got no other gables. Somebody reported a UFO or a flying disc above Charlie Tango. Seriously. Excellent. Yeah. Nobody can see it, but use caution. And that's too much it. Gateway 668. Look out your window. Look out your window. Do you see anything above United Concourse? They actually, believe it or not, they call somebody observed a flying disc above the gate Charlie 17. See anything over there?
Not that I can tell.
Okay. Yeah, I thought my job was stressful.
We saw it a half hour ago.
Who saw it?
Whole bunch of us over at the Charlie Concourse.
Really? Who's this?
The United taxi mechanics.
He just said that the mechanics all saw it. So I'm sorry about the audio quality, but I pulled this directly from their website. So this is the original audio, all garbled a little bit. But you can hear one by one, they talk about this UFO. So what happened to the disc? Multiple witnesses watched as this flying disc suddenly shot up in less than a second, cut through the clouds like butter, and left a cookie cutter-like hole the exact shape of the disc right through the clouds. That remained visible for quite a while, but finally dissipated and disappeared. The speed at which the disc zipped off was less than a second, an unbelievable speed that breaks all natural laws, again, supernatural. Captain Ray Brower, a professional pilot with 5,000 hours of flying and 8,000 landings, saw an enormous object shaped like a cigar, a mile long, and brilliant in its shining light over the English Channel, just 6 months after the O'Hare Airport sighting. It was witnessed by him and all his passengers. He said, "Their brilliance is difficult to describe, but I was able to look at this fantastic light without discomfort." And he says that the light that pulsated from this massive object had sparkling blue, greens, and other hues strobing up and down about once every second or so. What did this pilot conclude in his own words? I can only conclude that they were not from around here. And in that I mean they cannot have been manufactured on earth. The day may be coming when the whole human race will have to face the frightening reality that we are coexistent with others in this universe. Captain Ray Brower is not the only one who believes these UFOs, whatever they are, cannot be from Earth. Retired General Parviz Jafari of the Iranian Air Force in 1976 was ordered to go in his Phantom F-42 fighter jet and intercept a bright light-emitting UFO over Tehran. This UFO was bright and flashing colored lights, changing positions, and even changing shapes. Citizens in Tehran had seen this luminous thing that originally appeared like a star. File that one away, because we'll be coming back to it. But it moved and behaved very different from any of the stars in the sky. So at 12:30 a.m., General Jafari took off from the base to investigate. When they approached the UFO, it was flashing with intense red, green, orange, and blue lights so bright that General Jafari said he was not able to see the body of the UFO, just the lights. The lights formed a diamond shape, and the flashing lights were flashing extremely fast. As he approached it with his fighter jet, maybe 70 miles away, it suddenly jumped 10 degrees to the right in an instant. That 10 degrees represents 6.7 miles, and it took less than a fraction of a second. It was instantaneous in a new position. This happened over and over and over again until General Jafari had turned over 98 degrees to keep his fighter jet heading towards this thing. Now this UFO was viewed by the general, his backseat navigator. They had it on the plane's radar, and it was of course viewed by the military personnel at the base and some of the residents of the city of Tehran. General Jafari tried to lock onto this UFO with a Sidewinder missile, but every time he did, the instrument panel on his plane went dead, and the UFO would immediately jump to a new location. The Shah of Iran remarked after this event had taken place that, in my opinion, they cannot be from our planet, because if anyone on this planet had such power, he would bring the whole planet what? Under his own command. Larry Holcomb, the author of Presidents and UFOs, put it quite succinctly when he says, the accumulation of evidence is so great that no reasonable person can any longer deny their existence. Paul Hellyer, the former Canadian Minister of Defense, adds to that with his own statement that they are as real as the airplanes that fly over your head. Dr. J. Allen Hynek, a UFO debunker, eventually became a believer. He said in his book, I had started out as an outright debunker, taking great joy in cracking what seemed at first to be a puzzling case. I was the arch enemy of those flying saucer groups and enthusiasts, verily dearly wanted UFOs to be interplanetary. My own knowledge of those groups came almost entirely from what I heard from Blue Book personnel. They were all crackpots and visionaries. My transformation was gradual, but by the late 60s it was complete. Today, I would not spend one further moment on the subject of UFOs if I didn't seriously feel that the UFO phenomenon is real, and that efforts to investigate and understand it and eventually to solve it could have a profound effect, perhaps even be the springboard to mankind's outlook on the universe. Pretty amazing. Over and over, you're going to see, or you have seen, person after person, starting off as non-believers, and then having experiences or investigating these things and coming away realizing that these UFO experiences are real. And perhaps the most important thing for you to walk away with tonight is to come to understand that these are not just fictional, illusional things that people are coming up with in their heads. These are real sightings. These are real phenomenon that are happening all over the world, witnessed by thousands of people. And the reason why you need to believe that they're real is because tomorrow night we're going to be looking at, if they're real, then who or what are they? And the Bible, a book on supernatural topics, explains exactly who and what these UFO sightings are. You may have never seen UFOs in the Bible, but I can guarantee tomorrow night you're going to see UFOs straight from the Bible. And you'll see it with your own eyes. You'll say, wow, I read past that a million times. Why didn't I see it before? Now remember, I told you the Cometa report. We've been waiting this whole evening to read it. Here it is. The Cometa report said, numerous manifestations observed by reliable witnesses could be the work of craft of extraterrestrial origin. The most logical explanation for these sightings is the extraterrestrial hypothesis. What does extraterrestrial mean? Yeah, out of this world. So the idea that these things are not from Earth. These are from somewhere outside Earth. Extraterrestrials, a non-human intelligent life form originating from outside planet Earth. Now, time limits us to recount the thousands of stories, photos, eyewitness accounts, many of which are supernatural, such as UFOs opening 20-ton doors that lead into the atomic missile silos in Montana. Something you need massive machinery to accomplish, but these UFOs literally hover over these missile silos and the doors open on their own. Or another story of all these atomic missile silos that were miles apart being shut down by a single UFO flying over them one by one. And this, while each silo was independently powered and controlled. Or other stories that record these UFOs flying at speeds many times the sound barrier, completely silent without any sonic booms. Or the story of UFOs traveling at 200 miles per hour underwater.
It's doing 200 miles an hour underwater, big as a football field. That's no fish. There are 5 to 6 deep water areas in the ocean. And he said these are areas where we see a high propensity of these UFOs.
So is it possible, given our current understanding of physics, for any man-made machine to go anywhere near 200 miles an hour underwater?
Not with our technology, no. The best we have is probably in the high 30s.
This is Congressman Tim Burchett from, I think, Tennessee, and he's being interviewed by Tucker Carlson, and that interview just came out October 10, 2025. And he's saying the things that we're witnessing, the things that Congress is hearing from these military pilots are things that are unexplained. It's supernatural. You're going to see, I have some other clips from Tucker Carlson, but Tucker Carlson began investigating these UFO sightings, and he shared on the Joe Rogan show, he said, I have stopped investigating these things because of how dark it gets. When you start chasing UFOs, how dark and spiritual it gets in looking into these things. It is a fascinating thing. These are supernatural events of biblical proportions, and this is on the same level as someone coming to Congress and saying, I saw the parting of the Red Sea. No, really, the whole thing just parted as a man lifted up his rod in the air and millions of people walked on dry ground. Or the raining of bread from heaven. Yep, really happened. The same million people ate something called manna, and it just fell from the sky. Or the eyewitness testimony of 12 men all saying that they saw Jesus walking on water. Not swimming, not riding in a boat, but literally walking on water, defying the laws of physics. When you read the stories of the UFOs, you might as well be reading it right out of the Bible, because these are the things that defy physics, defy the natural order of the world. And you have to ask yourself the question, does the Bible tell us that there are beings, entities, creatures from other worlds that visit our planet? Can you find UFOs and aliens anywhere in the Bible? And what does the Bible have to say about our interactions with them? And these answers to this topic are going to leave you speechless. And that's why you have to come tomorrow evening, because we're going to unpack this more in our next presentation, angels among us. Again, thank you so much for joining us for Aliens, Angels, and the Afterlife for our first presentation. We have just barely scratched the surface again, just opening up this topic. My main objective was for you to realize and see this evening that these are real events happening all over the world. That was distracting. Tomorrow, we're going to start looking at who are they? What are they? And how can we know what these things truly are? So come tomorrow evening at 5:30. 5:30. Tonight we started at 6, but tomorrow we start at 5:30. Come tomorrow night, 5:30. We're going to look at angels among us, and then we'll have a short intermission, and then we're going to come back and we're going to take a deep dive into Area 51. You aren't going to want to miss it. And then again, if you're interested in some of this material, it is for sale in the lobby. Thank you everyone for joining and staying with me tonight. I hope you have a great evening. Thank you so much.